He stood in the middle of the living room, holding the phone that still smelled faintly of her perfume. The screen displayed a name he knew too well: Tyler, his brother. But the words were what paralyzed him. "Last night was everything. I hate sneaking around, but I love you too much to stop." Mark's knees buckled. He collapsed onto the couch they once picked out together, him, his wife, and the brother who had now shattered both blood and vows. For a moment, he couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The air was thick with betrayal. "She never suspected that her lover would one day be my brother, and I never imagined the woman I married would become a stranger overnight." Welcome to Karma Strikes, where betrayal meets justice. In this video, we unfold the story of Mark Reynolds, a man who believed in love, in family, in the kind of loyalty that runs deep through both marriage and bloodlines. But what he didn't know was that the two people he trusted most were the ones conspiring behind his back. His wife, Jenna, charming, affectionate, and full of laughter. His brother, Tyler, his childhood companion, his best man, his closest ally. Together they built a lie so convincing, so dangerous, it almost went unnoticed, until one message exposed it all. What you're about to witness isn't just the story of a marriage falling apart. It's the disintegration of a family, the implosion of trust, and the slow, relentless rise of justice. Because betrayal this deep doesn't disappear quietly. It echoes. It demands to be reckoned with. In a world where family should be the last place you expect deception, what happens when the people closest to you hide the sharpest knives? And when the truth comes out, who do you become? The victim? The survivor? Or the one who strikes back? This isn't just drama, it's karma. And in today's story, it comes wrapped in courtrooms, confession tapes, and one final twist that no one saw coming. Stick around, because in 30 minutes, your perception of loyalty, love, and family might change forever. Mark Reynolds was the kind of man who made people feel safe. At 34, he was a respected software engineer living in the leafy suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina. Reliable, thoughtful, the kind of older brother who always answered the phone, no matter the hour. If you asked anyone who knew him, they'd say Mark was steady, almost to a fault. But that steadiness came from experience. From growing up with a father who drank too much and a mother who carried the weight of silence. It was Mark who often shielded his younger brother Tyler from the worst of it, who walked him home from school, patched his scraped knees, and covered for his mistakes. Tyler, now 30, was everything Mark wasn't. Impulsive, magnetic, the life of every party. While Mark built servers and wrote code, Tyler bounced from job to job, eventually landing in tech sales thanks to a favor Mark pulled at a friend's company. They were opposites, but they were brothers. That had always been enough. Then came Jenna. Mark met her at a tech conference in Austin, Texas. She was presenting on digital branding, sharp, witty, captivating. Their first conversation turned into dinner, then a long-distance relationship, and finally, marriage. Jenna moved to Charlotte, bringing color and energy into Mark's quiet world. She had a way of making the ordinary feel exciting. Sunday pancakes, backyard movie nights, the way she danced barefoot in the kitchen. Everyone said they were perfect together. Their wedding was intimate, held under a canopy of oaks in Asheville. Tyler was Mark's best man, delivering a toast that left guests laughing and wiping tears. He spoke of brotherhood, loyalty, and how lucky Mark was to have found someone like Jenna. No one knew, not even Mark, that Tyler's eyes lingered just a bit too long on the bride. The first year of marriage was bliss. They moved into a cozy 2-story home with a wraparound porch and plans to start a family. Jenna began working remotely in brand consulting, while Mark continued with his firm downtown. Tyler visited often, claiming he loved the homey vibe. He'd bring over takeout, stay late watching Netflix, sometimes even crash on their couch after too many drinks. It felt normal, until it didn't. Jenna started working later hours. "Client deadlines," she'd say, brushing a kiss against Mark's cheek as she rushed out the door. Mark trusted her. Why wouldn't he? But things began to shift. Her phone, once casually left around the house, was now locked. Notifications were silenced. She smiled at texts she didn't explain. When Mark asked, she waved it off. Just memes from the girls. And then there was Tyler, showing up when Jenna was home alone, borrowing things Mark hadn't offered, helping with things she never mentioned needing help with. Once, Mark came home to find them cooking together. Jenna laughed nervously. Tyler offered a beer like nothing was wrong. Still, Mark convinced himself it was his imagination. He'd always been cautious, maybe too cautious. Maybe this was just marriage settling into routine. Maybe he was overthinking. But deep down, something had shifted. The laughter in the house felt thinner. The silences stretched longer. And the man who had always known what was right began to feel like he was standing on the edge of something he couldn't see. A question grew in the quiet. What if the people you love most are the ones who lie best? That question would soon lead Mark down a path he never imagined, toward a truth more devastating than any suspicion. Because the signs weren't just random. They were pieces of a puzzle he was about to complete, and when he did, the picture would break his world apart. It was a Thursday afternoon when the illusion cracked. Mark had come home early from work. An unexpected systems outage at the office had cut the day short. As he pulled into the driveway, he noticed Jenna's car already there. Odd. She had mentioned having a late strategy meeting with a new client. The lights in the living room were off, but the faint hum of the shower upstairs echoed through the quiet house. He stepped inside, the familiar scent of vanilla and jasmine hanging in the air. On the nightstand in their bedroom, Jenna's phone buzzed. Once, then again. Mark hesitated. They had always respected each other's privacy. He had never once gone through her phone. But something primal stirred inside him, a whisper from the part of himself he'd been trying to ignore. He walked over slowly. The screen lit up. T. Last night was unreal. I miss your hands already. His heart stopped. He unlocked the phone. The password was the same. Their anniversary. April 22nd. The message thread opened with ease. What greeted him was not a conversation. It was a confession stretched over months. Photos, messages, voice notes. You make me feel alive again. He's too predictable. You're the only one who sees me. And then the final blow. We'll find a way to tell him. He deserves the truth. Just not yet. The sender was saved simply as T, but he didn't need a full name. Mark dropped the phone. For a second, he forgot how to breathe. His stomach twisted. The woman he had trusted with his dreams. The brother he had defended since they were kids. Together. Together. Jenna emerged moments later in a towel, her wet hair clinging to her shoulders. The moment she saw his face, pale, eyes wide, hands trembling, she knew. She tried to speak, but her voice was barely a whisper. "How long?" he asked. It was all he could say. Her eyes darted away. It started last spring, when you were on that business trip in Seattle. So it's been almost a year? I never meant for it to happen, she whispered. It was a mistake. A horrible, complicated mistake. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He simply walked past her and out the front door, the air outside cold against the fire burning beneath his skin. Later that night, Mark went to Tyler's apartment. His brother opened the door and froze. No pretense, no fake smile, just a silence that said more than words ever could. Mark didn't punch him. He didn't yell. He simply looked him in the eye and said, "You could have taken anything from me, but you took the one person I let into my soul." Tyler didn't apologize, didn't defend himself. He just closed the door as slowly as he had opened it. Days turned to weeks. Mark filed for divorce. But the legal motions felt hollow compared to the emotional storm brewing inside him. The betrayal wasn't just about sex. It was about conspiracy. The two people closest to him had built an entire second life in the shadows of his own. He stopped going to family dinners, stopped answering his mother's calls, especially when she begged him to forgive and move on. She hadn't seen the messages. She hadn't heard the voice notes. Mark began therapy. He spoke to a counselor twice a week. He started journaling, trying to make sense of the shards left behind. But the more he wrote, the more it became clear. This wasn't over. Not yet. Because some betrayals don't end with discovery. They start there. One night, while reviewing their shared financial statements for the divorce, Mark saw something strange. Hotel charges, duplicate bookings, airfare that Jenna had never mentioned. Cross-referencing the dates with Tyler's Instagram stories confirmed what he feared. They had traveled together, hidden in plain sight, covered by the illusion of work and family. He took screenshots, compiled a folder, evidence. And that's when he noticed an email from Jenna to her attorney, accidentally forwarded to their shared inbox. The subject line, leverage. He opened it, read every word. And what he found wasn't just betrayal, it was strategy. Jenna was planning to claim emotional neglect, to paint Mark as cold, distant, to take half of everything. That night, Mark didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling until dawn, eyes wide, heart heavy. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was war. And in war, he realized, truth is your greatest weapon. If you were in Mark's shoes, what would you do next? Would you fight back or walk away? Comment Ben Duoyne. Because Mark was done mourning, he was ready to uncover everything, to build his case, to face them both. And he wasn't going to do it alone. Mark didn't know exactly when the grief turned into clarity. Maybe it was during one of those long, sleepless nights, staring at the soft hum of the refrigerator light. Or maybe it was the moment he saw Jenna's email, cold, calculated, written like a business memo. Secure assets. Reposition narrative. Highlight emotional neglect. Those weren't the words of a remorseful partner. They were the words of someone preparing for war. And so, Mark prepared too. He began documenting everything. Every expense Jenna had hidden, every photo Tyler had posted, every text message that hinted at deception. He didn't just save them, he organized them. Folders on his encrypted drive labeled by month, topic, and relevance. His calm exterior at work masked the storm of strategy forming behind the scenes. He hired a private investigator, a man named Russell, a former cop with a sharp eye and a reputation for discretion. Russell tracked Tyler's movements, confirming not only the affair, but the consistency with which they coordinated their meetings. Hotels, out-of-town business trips, even a romantic weekend getaway in Asheville disguised as a branding retreat. Mark also returned to Kelly Thompson, the lawyer who had first helped him file for divorce. Kelly was impressed by the evidence he had compiled. "You're building a damn good case," she told him, "and if this goes to trial, we'll make sure the court sees the truth." But Mark didn't stop there. He bought a discreet voice recorder on Amazon, the kind designed to be hidden among books or decor. He placed it beneath the sofa cushions in the living room. For 3 nights, he captured whispered conversations. Jenna on the phone with Tyler, discussing not just their affair, but how to navigate the divorce in their favor. "We need to stay ahead of him," Jenna's voice echoed through the playback. "If he suspects too much, it could ruin everything." Mark sat in the dark, listening, the weight of every word digging deeper into his chest. He reached out to Emma, one of Jenna's former colleagues. someone she'd fallen out with over a failed project months ago. Emma surprisingly agreed to meet. Over coffee, she shared more than expected. Jenna had been talking about leaving Mark long before the affair became physical. She always said he was too rigid, too predictable, but she never mentioned your brother. That's something else. Emma agreed to testify if needed. The pieces were falling into place, but with every move Mark made, he felt the walls closing in. A mutual friend warned him. Jenna was telling people he'd been emotionally distant, borderline obsessive. Tyler, meanwhile, had started going quiet, deleting posts, avoiding shared acquaintances. The narrative was shifting. Mark felt it, like a current pulling him underwater while everyone else just watched the surface ripple. He started waking at 3 a.m., heart racing, unable to breathe. He stopped eating full meals. His therapist grew concerned, urging him to find balance. "You can't fight them if you let them unravel you," she said gently. But Mark had already made peace with the cost. He wasn't fighting to win Jenna back, or even to punish Tyler. He was fighting to reclaim his truth. Because if they were going to paint him as the villain, he'd rather stand alone with integrity than collapse under their lies. One night, he returned home to find the lock on the back door tampered with. Nothing was stolen, but something had changed. Whether it was paranoia or a real threat, Mark couldn't tell. But it was enough for him to buy a new lock, change the alarm code, and sleep with the lights on for a week. He wasn't just being targeted in court. He was being watched. And yet, amidst all of it, a strange calm settled over him. "The seeds you sow today will bloom tomorrow, whether you like it or not." Mark was done playing defense. He was ready to strike. He worked with Kelly to amend the divorce filing, adding claims of adultery, emotional distress, and, most importantly, alienation of affection. It was rare, but North Carolina law allowed it, and Mark had more than enough proof. The next court hearing was set for the end of the month, and as the date approached, he felt something unexpected: anticipation. Because the truth was no longer a weapon in someone else's hand. It was his, and he was ready to use it. The morning of the hearing arrived with a stillness that felt rehearsed. The sky over Charlotte was overcast, heavy with the kind of gray that seemed to press down on the city. Mark stood before the mirror, adjusting his black suit. Not out of vanity, but out of intent. This wasn't just a divorce proceeding, it was the reckoning. Mecklenburg County Courthouse bustled with quiet conversations, clacking heels, and the occasional click of a coffee cup against marble benches. Mark stepped inside, briefcase in hand, shoulders squared. Kelly Thompson walked beside him, calm and composed. Jenna was already there, seated with her attorney, sharp navy blazer, hair in a tight bun, lips pursed in what looked like defiance. Tyler was conspicuously absent. The judge, a woman named Martha Connolly with a reputation for precision and zero tolerance for theatrics, entered. The room fell into silence. The hearing began. Kelly presented Mark's case with deliberate clarity. She started with the foundation: the marriage, the timeline, the growing suspicion. Then came the evidence: text messages with time-stamped screenshots, the audio recordings from the living room, the travel receipts cross-referenced with Tyler's work schedule. Jenna's attorney objected repeatedly, claiming circumstantial relevance, but Kelly had built a fortress of facts. Then, Emma took the stand. Under oath, she testified about Jenna's plans to manipulate the divorce narrative, about the long-standing emotional detachment Jenna described, but never once mentioned abuse, cruelty, or control. Her testimony painted a portrait of strategy, not survival, but the final blow hadn't come yet. Mark had saved it. Kelly pulled a flash drive from her folder and passed it to the clerk. The courtroom screen lit up, surveillance footage, a hotel lobby. The date in the corner, October 13th, the weekend Jenna had told Mark she was at a branding retreat in Raleigh. The footage showed Jenna entering with Tyler, holding hands, laughing. She reached up, kissed his cheek. They stepped into the elevator together, alone. Gasps rippled through the gallery. The judge's gaze was stone. Jenna's face turned pale. Her attorney leaned in frantically, but it was too late. When asked to respond, Jenna's voice cracked. I never meant to hurt him, she whispered. I thought we were careful. Careful. That word did more damage than any insult. Kelly then stood and handed over one final document, an amended petition naming Tyler as a co-defendant in a civil suit for alienation of affection. It was legal, rare, but devastating. Jenna's composure shattered, and then twist. As murmurs echoed through the courtroom, the door opened. Tyler entered, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, suit jacket wrinkled. He looked nothing like the charming brother Mark once knew. He asked to speak. The judge allowed it. He didn't deny the affair, didn't make excuses. But what he revealed next turned heads. I didn't just betray my brother. I helped Jenna access his emails, his cloud storage, even his calendar. We monitored when he'd be out of town. We used it. Jenna turned to him, wide-eyed, mouthing, "What are you doing?" Tyler looked broken. "I want to tell the truth. I can't carry this anymore." That single confession shifted everything. The courtroom fell into silence. Even the judge seemed momentarily stunned. Mark didn't look at Jenna. He didn't need to. Her lies had finally caught up with her, and the weight of her own choices settled like dust around her. As her brother-in-law's voice trembled in confession, Jenna's confidence dissolved. No more legal posturing, no more narrative control, only the truth, bare and raw. Justice that day didn't roar. It whispered. But it was deafening all the same. The verdict didn't come with cheers or applause. It came in quiet clarity. Judge Connolly ruled in Mark's favor. Jenna would receive only minimal alimony, citing documented infidelity and strategic manipulation of shared assets. The civil suit against Tyler moved forward. The court awarded Mark compensatory damages. Financial, yes, but more than that, symbolic. A ruling that said, this happened, and it mattered. No one clapped, no one cheered. But justice doesn't always need an audience. Sometimes it's enough for the truth to stand unshaken. Jenna walked out of the courtroom that day alone, her attorney a few steps behind. The woman who once orchestrated dinner parties and vacations now avoided every eye in the hallway. The gossip had already started. Friends whispered, co-workers speculated, neighbors stared a little longer when she came outside. Tyler didn't return to work. Within weeks, he was placed on leave. His reputation, once bolstered by charm, now collapsed under shame. Mark didn't follow the fallout. He didn't have to. Karma was already at work. He moved to Denver, a new city, a new skyline, a new silence. There, Mark started over. He joined a small but promising tech startup, trading boardrooms for hiking trails. He adopted a rescue dog, a shepherd mix with tired eyes and a cautious heart. He named her Karma. It felt fitting. Therapy continued. Healing wasn't linear. There were days he missed the life he thought he had. Days he wondered if he should have seen it coming. But those days came less often now. He made new friends. Ate dinner without checking the time, stood on his porch during thunderstorms just to feel the world shake a little on his terms. Back in Charlotte, Jenna and Tyler became invisible. Friends distanced themselves. Family gatherings grew strained. Mark's mother no longer asked him to forgive because she had seen the court footage herself. She had heard the recording. She understood now. The story circulated online. A local news site covered the rare alienation of affection suit. Social media picked it up. Threads formed. Opinions swirled. Some called Mark petty. Others called him powerful. But most agreed. Betrayal should never go unanswered. And sometimes the most satisfying form of justice is simply living well without the ones who tried to break you. Because forgiveness doesn't mean returning what was taken. Sometimes it means walking away with your dignity intact and never looking back. And that's how karma struck, proving no one escapes justice. If you found this story powerful, if you believe truth matters, even when it hurts, then hit like and subscribe. Share this video with someone who needs to know they're not alone, that even in betrayal, there is strength. And in truth, there is freedom. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted most? Comment Ben Duoy. Your story matters too.